2015, Christopher Lonnie Breaux would change his name legally to Frank Ocean. The new name was inspired by a legendary singer, Frank Sinatra, and the character Danny Ocean from the movie Ocean's 11. A name change for an artist normally wouldn't mean much, but this one in particular would signal the beginning of the largest heist in modern music history. In 2009, Frank Ocean signed a 2-album deal with Defjam due to the impressive quality of his mixtape, Lonny Breaux, and his affiliation with Odd Future. But almost 2 years later in 2011, Defjam had still not given Frank a release window. His relevance was fading every day and he knew it, so with no label support, he released Nostalgia Ultra in 2011. The mixtape was an instant hit and would put Frank on the radar of industry juggernauts like Jay-Z and Kanye West, who would feature Frank on No Church in the Wild off of Watch the Throne in 2012. All this gave Frank a buzz big enough that the label finally recognized him and gave him a solid release date. And on July 10th of 2012, a whole 3 years after signing, his debut album, Channel Orange, was finally released.
I do feel more like a visual artist when your storytelling is, your own experiences and memories and, personal wisdom and knowledge. So a lot of that, when I pull from that place, it comes along with pictures, and when I'm trying to make a song, even the form of it, even the part that doesn't have words, the parts that don't have words, it's still, really trying to make a photograph out of something that you can never see.
The album would go on to sell over 100K first week and win Album of the Year at the 2013 Grammys. Def Jam saw the success of Channel Orange and gave Frank Ocean a $2 million advance to record his next and final record of his 2-album deal. So with $2 million in tow, Frank recorded all over the world, from Abbey Road Studios in London to New York, Tokyo, and even Paris. No expense was spared, as Frank flew out master instrumentalists, producers, and artists to help him finish the album, similar to Kanye's method of recording My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy in Hawaii in 2010. And for over 2 years, Frank would pour his everything into creating his magnum opus. Whispers of the Heist began in April of 2015, when Frank posted 2 pictures to Tumblr with the caption, "I got 2 versions." Since it had already been 3 years since Frank's first studio album, many fans theorized that a double album was on the way, but they would again be left in the dark until over a year later, when on August 1st of 2016 at 3 a.m., Frank started a live stream. The stream consisted of Frank building a staircase while different snippets of new unreleased music would play. The stream then ended with Frank walking up said stairs. But what viewers didn't understand at the time was the hidden meaning behind what they had just watched. 2 weeks later, Frank paid Def Jam back the $2 million advance he was given and was able to retain ownership of any additional recordings he had made over the 2 years he had spent working. No one knows exactly how Frank was able to come up with the $2 million, but some people theorize that a certain friend had loaned him the money. Frank would release a cut version of the live stream on August 19th of 2016 under the name Endless, and with the release of Endless, he had fulfilled his contract and could now operate as an independent artist. Endless was a 45-minute recording of the live stream, released exclusively on Apple Music, and was well received by fans and critics alike. But before fans could even get a chance to process Endless, Frank released Blonde.
Yo, help me out. I know you gotta leave, take down some summertime. Give up, just a night. I know you got someone coming, spitting game, know you got it. You gotta leave, take down some summertime. Give us just a night. Ooh, you got someone coming, spitting game. Know you got it.
Blonde released independently through his very own record label, Boys Don't Cry, on August 20th of 2016, just a day after Endless, to the surprise of fans and the anger of Defjam. He had basically given Defjam a fake album to get out of his record deal and dropped his actual album just a day later. And although his contract details aren't public, it's reported that Frank received over 8 figures from Defjam before leaving the label, and swindled them out of millions in the process. But the real kicker was that Frank also received $20 million to release his album exclusively on Apple Music. The executives at Universal were furious and proceeded to ban streaming exclusive releases for all their artists. Even though Blonde was only available on Apple Music, it still managed to debut at number 1 on Billboard and sold over 276,000 units first week. And because it was released independently, Frank was able to take 70% of the revenue instead of the usual 10 to 15% that artists usually make. Using these numbers, we can estimate that Frank made over $1 million from Blonde in just the first week. Some estimates even go as high as $1.7 million, but if he had still been signed with Defjam, he would have received only a small $215,000. The battle between artists and labels is nothing new. For decades, artists have been continually given the short end of the stick when it comes to deals, but Frank Ocean's $20 million heist is a rare occasion when the artist is able to one-up the industry machine and serves as inspiration to artists everywhere. Looking back at the Endless live stream, it's obvious now that the stairs Frank was building represent him crafting and perfecting his plan, just like Danny Ocean, and him climbing them at the end represents him leaving Defjam on his own terms, free to create, whenever, however, and whatever he wants.